In 1866, the seas were gripped by terror. A mysterious creature, larger and faster than any known beast, haunted the world's oceans. Ships were damaged, some destroyed. Entire crews vanished without a trace. Sailors whispered of a demon from the depths. Tentacled, mechanical, alive. Nations speculated. Scientists scoffed. But something was out there. Something was hunting. This is the story of a voyage into darkness, into obsession, into the deep unknown. This is Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, retold as a descent into horror. Professor Aronnax was one of the few who believed the rumors. He had studied the patterns, the testimonies. He knew something strange was stirring beneath the waves. Along with his loyal servant, Conseil, a man of logic and little imagination, Aronnax joined the expedition aboard the Abraham Lincoln, an American warship bound to hunt the unexplainable. Also aboard was Ned Land, a Canadian harpooner with hands like iron and a hatred for anything he couldn't kill. He didn't care what the creature was. He just wanted it dead. Weeks passed. The sea was endless. No sightings. No signs. Tension grew thick. Then on a moonless night, the ocean stirred. Great shape, glowing faintly, rose from the depths. The ship gave chase. Harpoons were readied. An impact, a shudder, a crash, screams, wood splintered. The Abraham Lincoln was struck. In the chaos, Aronnax, Conseil, and Ned were cast overboard, swallowed by the night. Clinging to floating debris, the trio spotted a dark, gleaming surface beneath them, cold, hard, metallic. It wasn't an animal. It was a vessel, a submarine. They crawled onto the curved back of the thing that had destroyed their ship. A hatch opened silently. They were pulled into dim, humming corridors. Smooth walls, mechanical sounds. The air was cold, too clean. The lighting was low. And everywhere they turned, silence. Then, he appeared, Captain Nemo. A tall, gaunt man with the presence of a grave. His voice was measured, his gaze bottomless. He offered them food, clothing, rest. But one thing was made clear. They were now guests aboard the Nautilus, guests who would never leave. At first, Aronnax was in awe. The undersea world unfolded like a dream. Coral cathedrals, phosphorescent gardens, schools of fish that moved like living constellations. He was allowed to study, to learn, to marvel. But with every passing day, the shadows grew longer. The fish began to behave oddly. Some had no eyes, others had too many. Aronnax saw a whale carcass floating upright, still bleeding, as if freshly killed, though it had been days. No scavengers touched it. Then came the wrecked ships lying intact, their sails still stiff, their flags unfaded, as if they just slipped beneath the water that morning. And Nemo changed. They entered the lost city of Atlantis. Statues lined the avenues, tall and expressionless. Murals showed scenes of sacrifice, of storms, of burning skies. As the crew walked among the ruins in pressurized suits, Aronnax felt watched. One statue seemed to turn slightly. Another wept water from stone eyes. Was it the current, or something darker? Even Conseil grew silent, and Ned restless. Ned spoke more often of escape, of air, of sunlight, of anything other than this cold, oppressive void. The Nautilus, once a wonder, now felt like a coffin. Then came the creature, not a monster, a god of the deep. A squid longer than the Nautilus, with eyes the size of lifeboats and arms that reached like fingers of fate. It latched onto the ship, its beak scraped steel. Crewmen fought with blades and torches. One man screamed as he was torn from the deck, his body swallowed by the sea. Ned fought with rage. Aronnax froze. Conseil prayed. Nemo, he watched, silent, almost reverent. The beast retreated, but something lingered, as if it had left a mark not just on the hull, but on their minds. Deeper still, they reached a place Nemo called his sanctuary. White crosses stood in the muck, dozens, perhaps hundreds. Bones drifted weightlessly around them. Some still wore uniforms. These were the dead of the Nautilus. Nemo's old crew, friends, family, or enemies. No one knew, no one asked. But something moved behind the graves, something vast, watching, waiting. It went too far south. The ice closed above them. The Nautilus could not rise. Supplies dwindled. Air grew stale. The crew, those who still spoke, began to crack. Laughter turned to sobbing. Some sat staring at blank walls for hours. Others scratched messages into the floor. Aronnax dreamed of drowning, of screaming with a mouthful of water. Each time he woke, he still could not breathe. And Nemo, always calm, grew quieter. He would stand at the observation window for hours, watching the ice, as if willing it to open. Then, one morning, it did. The Nautilus broke free. But not into safety. The sea was wrong, too still, too deep. The sky above was the color of ash. The stars no longer matched any chart. Nemo said nothing. He only smiled. Aronnax realized with horror that they had crossed some threshold into waters unmapped by man, perhaps even forbidden. It couldn't go on. Ned was adamant. Aronnax, now fearing for his sanity, agreed. That night, as a vortex formed above, they made their escape. Conseil followed silently. They crept through the ship, past silent crew, past locked doors that throbbed with an eerie glow. At the last moment, Aronnax turned back. Nemo stood at the helm, his arms outstretched, his mouth moving in prayer or song. The Nautilus plunged. He was found days later, unconscious, raving. No one believed his story. Ned and Conseil were never found. The Nautilus was never seen again. But sometimes, sailors speak of a light beneath the waves. A ghostly vessel that sings to the sea, that drifts endlessly, watching. And some say, it waits. The deep is not empty. It remembers, and it does not forgive. This was no voyage of discovery. It was a descent into madness, into silence, into terror.